The top 10 stupidest things Christians do, number 9. The influence of witchcraft in the church. Wait, what? The church does not engage in witchcraft? Well, some Christians do, and it is more common than you might think. Human beings are designed to engage the supernatural realms. Some of it's just not God. Even 1/3 of atheists believe in the paranormal and prayer. Martin Luther taught that witchcraft was a sin because the second commandment says, "You shall have no other God before me." With that in mind, and before we look at the scriptures, here is a brief list of practices and topics that I found in the Google search, Christian witchcraft. Divination, fortune-telling, horoscopes, tarot cards, psychics, and Ouija boards. Fantasy characters such as Harry Potter, Chronicles of Narnia, Disney, Santa, and the Easter Bunny. Holidays that take place on pagan holidays such as Christmas, Easter, Halloween, Valentine's Day, white and black witchcraft, Wicca, and liberal Christians only casting loving spells. I really found that. Satanism. Repetitive prayers and mantras. Positive thinking. You thinking good thoughts, random acts of kindness. Study of the temperaments and other psychological practices. Eastern religions and their practices. Santeria, skull worship, cannibalism, shrunken heads and various Indian traditions. Check the description for a video link to open doors to demon possession. The Bible definitively condemns the practice of witchcraft. Deuteronomy chapter 18 verses 10 through 12 says, "Let no one be found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire." This is common in Baal worship, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium, or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. And in Exodus 22 verse 18 it says plainly, "Do not allow a sorceress to live." Some who practiced Near East religions acted as mediums, channeling messages from the dead or from a familiar spirit. This would include things like ghosts, seances, demons inhabiting homes, and even other tangible items like crystals and dream catchers. Saul, now he rightly consulted prophets, supernatural hearing from God, as king of Israel, but he sinned when he consulted the witch of Endor, supernatural hearing from the demonic, as recorded in 1 Samuel 28. The difference, folks, is the source. The Church, Catholic, Pentecostal, Charismatic, and even some independent denominations, maintain their own supernatural arsenal, sometimes called charism or charismata in the plural. That word comes from the Greek, charis, meaning grace or gratuitous gift. It's a reflection of God's grace and power. These are described in 1 Corinthians chapters 12, 13, and 14, Ephesians chapter 4, and Romans chapter 12. The gifts of the Spirit are from God, however they can be duplicated by demons. I once ministered in a church full of false tongues, but I've also ministered in hundreds of churches with the real deal. These are the type of spiritual phenomena that Paul said need to be spiritually discerned. The same is true of prophecy, healing, and other types of miracles. And listen, if you don't know God, it's doubtful you'll recognize his handiwork. Alright, so, as we contrast the above list to the second commandment and that verse from Deuteronomy, we can pretty easily weed out a number of practices. Off the list are all types of spells, divination, psychic readings, horoscopes, and the like. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and call that the occult. Also off the list are non-Christian religions, Eastern, Western, Indian, New Age, and Wicca. So that leaves us with holidays, fantasy characters, and psychological practice. And look, regarding psychology, there's actually some very good stuff out there, but you've got to use your discernment. Good psychology simply observes healthy, godly behavior. Personally, I'd stay away from Jung, Freud, and some of that pop stuff out there. And remember, we can't make this stuff our God or we risk sinning against him. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and state my opinion when it comes to stuff like Harry Potter. If it looks like sin, like witchcraft, it is likely to cause sin. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of the imagination, and so artistic and creative writing, that's on the good list. God gives us talents and creative thoughts, right? But like everything else, we've got to keep the truth in perspective and enjoy what's created by artists in a way that honors him. And yeah, I'm certainly not talking about profane images or other types of art that'll cause us to sin. With such a tremendous saturation of video games, entertainment, movies, online activities, and a barrage of other media that runs 24/7, we really need to find ways to keep our Christian life in balance. I don't think we can just set up some kind of balance schedule. Nah, we need to hear from God and do it. That's always the bottom line. A steady diet of non-Christian books, music, media, and games, that's not going to develop godly character. When it comes to holidays, as Christians, we must be careful of the appearance of evil. If it looks like we are sinning, or we're doing things that cause others to sin, well, we're in trouble. The Christian calendar has been primarily established by the Roman Catholic Church. Holidays were meant to compete with secular celebrations. This was the beginning of ineffective church programs. It's not what I would have done personally, however. Tradition is not harmful unless it keeps us from God. There is a realm between sin and holiness that I like to call not sin, not God. I'll be making a video on that soon, so be sure to subscribe and click the bell and you'll know when it is uploaded. It is possible to know which activities are not strictly forbidden by Scripture and are still permissible, but Paul said this. Romans chapter 14, verse 20. Do not destroy the work of God for the sake of food. All food is clean, but it is wrong for a man to eat anything that causes someone else to stumble. Verse 21. It is better not to eat meat or drink wine or to do anything else that will cause your brother to fall. Verse 22. So whatever you believe about these things, keep between yourself and God. Blessed is the man who does not condemn himself by what he approves. And verse 23. But the man who has doubts is condemned if he eats, because his eating is not from faith, and everything that does not come from faith is sin. Enjoy that which is legal, refrain from that which is not, and well, keep your mouth shut about what is neither. How does that sound? Thank you for listening to The Nonprofit. Please like, share, and subscribe. And hey, look for links to the other videos in this series down in the description. Click here to watch another one of my videos and subscribe to my channel.